Welcome back, besties. Today we're going to do my Q1 of 2025 reading wrap up. I have not been posting a lot of reading videos lately, but I promise that I have been reading, and this video is going to serve as evidence of that, just in case any of y'all want to drag me to court. I think I read maybe like 27 books in this quarter, which I actually think is on par with a lot of my other quarterly wrap-ups. I feel like the sweet spot for me is anywhere between 25 to 30 books. Usually I do these quarterly wrap-ups in order from all the books that I gave like 1 star up to the books that I gave 5 stars, but today I just cannot be bothered. So this quarterly wrap up is just gonna be coming to you in no order, but I will be telling you what I thought about these books and the rating that I gave them. Also, if I posted any videos where I was reading these books in a vlog, I'll link them down below. I need to apologize because it is thunderstorming outside, so I really hope that you can't hear the rain and the thunder. Now, the first book I read this year is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and I read this book for a video where I read BookTuber's worst books of 2024, and The Familiar came up a couple of times. I am gonna sit here and struggle to remember what this book is about. I think this was set in like Spain, and we're following our main character whose name is Lucy. Maybe that's her name, maybe it's not, I don't remember. And she's very poor, but she works for this kind of well-off family. I don't remember if the family's quite rich, but they're doing all right. And she has some magical abilities where the lady of the house catches her with those magical abilities, and then she's whisked away to like the king's court to do some magical trials. But along the way she meets a guy who is loosely described to us as a vampire. It's never really told, but he's kind of described as a vampire, but he's also described to us as a familiar, hence the name of the book. Unlike most people that read this book, I gave this 4 stars. I really liked it. It was a vibey, good time. It had some witchiness into it. And I actually really liked the relationship between Lucy and the man that she got into a relationship with, whose name escapes me. Now, the next book I read was the first book in the Bridgerton series, which I think is The Duke and I, and it's following Daphne's story. This was actually kind of a reread for me because I read it, I think, last year, but I never did a video on it. So I reread it this year because I really wanted to do a video where I read all the Bridgerton books. The video that I posted a while ago was just me reading the first 4 Bridgerton books, but I will continue on with the series. And I don't need to explain to you what this book is about, but we're following the Bridgerton family, and they got 8 kids in this family, and each book is following one of them falling in love and getting married. I gave this book 1 star because unfortunately it did fall into the trap of the times that this was in. I think it was like maybe 17 or 1800s, where women didn't have a lot of rights and it was really important to get married, and the main character Daphne wanted to get married in order to have kids. And then there was a R-word scene in this book that I don't think that's talked about enough. 1 star to this book, I'm so sorry. The next book I read is The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell. And this is another book that I gave 1 star. This is one of the worst books that I have read this year. It's not the worst book that I've read this year. That book we will be talking about. But The Age of Magical Overthinking is a nothing burger book. Amanda Montell decided to give us this clusterfuck where nothing made sense and had nothing to do with overthinking or manifesting. Literally anything. It was just a bunch of off-the-cuff weird tangents about her life. 1 star, do not recommend. And then the next book I read was the second book in the Bridgerton series, which is why I'm holding up this book again. And this is following Anthony's book, or his love story. I always get the name wrong of this book. What is it? The Viscount Who Loved Me, or something like that. And we're following Anthony and Kate's love story. I'm not going to get into this one because all y'all out there love the 2nd season of Bridgerton and are stans for Anthony and Kate. And I literally wish I was one of you, but I just thought this book was meh. I thought the romance was meh. I thought season 2 was just kind of meh. I'm so sorry. Please don't cancel me. And then the next book I read was Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. I'm so sorry, Crystal Sutherland. I forgot your name. But this is a witchy book. We're following 3 girlies. One of them is like a magical savant who can write a bunch of invocations, and this is kind of like spells that gives you powers. And then we're following another girl who fucked up her invocation and she's dealing with the ramifications of that. And then we're following another girl whose sister died and she's trying to bring her sister back to life using magical means. But in the middle of all of this, we have some of the people who have invocations written on them going missing or killed. At the heart of this is a kind of like a mystery type book, but with a lot of witchiness. It's giving practical magic. It's giving Charmed. I really like this book. I gave it 5 stars. I read this book for a video that I don't know if I'm ever going to release. I only have 1 more book that I need to read for that video, and I just can't bring myself to do it. Maybe I will someday, but in the meantime, 5 stars. I actually recommend that you read this book. And then I read Paladin's Faith by T. Kingfisher. I do not remember a single thing about this book. There is something about the last 2 books in the series where none of it was processing in my brain. I actually do think I need to go back and reread the entire books in the series. I can't tell you what this book is about because I don't remember. Apparently I give it 2 stars on Goodreads. I think I was reading this at the height of the time when I was having issues with my medical condition, which is a problem with my brain. Hence probably why I can't remember anything in this book. I'm so sorry. This one needs a second shot. I could look up the premise of what this book is on Goodreads, but I'm not going to do that. And then the next book I read was An Offer from a Gentleman, which is the 3rd book in the Bridgerton series, and it follows Benedict's story. That's right, Benedict, not Penelope. Benedict's story is a Cinderella retelling, and this is by far one of the best books that I've read this year so far. It's still my number 1 book out of all the books that I read this quarter. This is still number 1. I know the 4th season of Bridgerton is supposed to come out maybe like later this year or early next year, and I cannot wait. I'm so hyped. I love Benedict. I love Sophie. This season is going to be absolute best. All you Anthony and Kate stands out there, y'all are going to weep when you get the story. It is a far superior story. And then the next book I read was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, and I gave this book 4 stars. So we're following 2 women who meet at a cafe and they realize that they share the same birthday, and they're like, oh my god, we're birthday twins. But one of the girls, can't remember her name, is a little bit sketch and a little bit weird, and she goes up to the other one and says, hey, you should make a podcast about my life because I've got some things to tell you. This book is a bit stalkery. It's got some mystery. It's got some twists and turns that I did not see coming. Like I said, I give it 4 stars. I really liked it. I can see where some people are saying and coming from when they said this book isn't good, but I recommend it. If you want a good vibey mystery that's set in like UK following 2 women, then this one is for you. I think what I particularly liked about this book is that it's not the obvious the husband did it. You really got to think in order to guess what the plot twist was, and even then I couldn't even get it. And then the next book I read is Into the Drowning Deep by Rant. I do not own this book. I did listen to it on audio and then read it on Kindle, but we are following 2 sisters. One of them is like a influencer TV personality, and the other one is like a biologist. And the sister, who's an influencer, gets a job on this ship, and the ship is going to go to the Marina Trench in order to film a mockumentary about mermaids. And it's for this TV channel. I just think of it as like the Discovery Channel, but this TV channel sends them out there, like I said, in order to make a mockumentary. But then they quickly realize that mermaids are real, and the ship goes down. It sinks. Everybody dies. So the other sister, who's a biologist, grows up, and she really, really wants to know what happened to her sister and if mermaids are real. And the TV show channel, whatever, comes back around and he's like, hey, other cis biologists, we want to hire you for this ship crew because we're going to send people out there and we're going to get actual evidence that mermaids exist. We're following a whole cast of characters. I give this book 3 stars. I thought it was just okay. It did feel like it was dragging a lot in the middle. It had some random romances that I was like, I don't think that you need that for a horror book. And then the ending was kind of like, what the fuck? How did we end up here? I don't follow the thought process as to how that all happened, but okay, I guess. And the next book I read is Penelope's story in the Bridgerton series, whatever the fuck her book title name is. I don't remember because I actually didn't like this book. Like, I love Penelope, but Colin is a garbage of a man. He is such a little insecure baby that Penelope is Lady Whistledown. That is not a spoiler. Actually, kind of is, but if you don't know that at this point, that's on you, bestie. But like I was saying, Colin is a little bitch. This is the one where I'm going to actually say that the TV series is better than the book because I liked season 3 of Bridgerton. I just did not like this book. I gave it 2 stars, and that second star was just for Penelope. The next book I read is The Will of Many by James Islington. I don't know how to say that man's last name. And I did have a copy of this book, but I ended up selling it. I bought a copy of this book at full price, which was like 30 something bucks, and I sold it for full price, 30 something bucks. Every once in a while, there's a book that comes around that is just so bad that it cannot leave me. First, there was Fourth Wing. I hate this book with a burning passion. I think that it's poorly written. The world building is also quite terrible. Then there was Midnight is the Darkest Hour. It's so insane that Ashley Winstead would put this out there and write this and just put it out in the universe that I was just like, I audibly gasped out loud. I was like, this cannot be something that she decides to write. And then there was Happy Place. The hate and vitriol that sits in my heart for this book truly knows no bounds. And I'm so sorry to have to tell you, but The Will of the Many is one of the worst books that I have read this year. I'm so sorry to all the BookTube besties that love this book because I hate it, with a passion. We're following our main character Viz, and he lives in this world that's kind of like Roman Empire inspired. James Islington just be thinking about the Roman Empire too much, because the way that he has set up this world, think of it as like a magical MLM. We got many people down at the bottom, and then higher up we go up on the pyramid are people that are like higher up in the government or the society. And there's this thing where you can give up your will to people in that pyramid scheme, and the higher up that you go, you get more will or more magical powers, and the lower down you are, you still get some will, but not that much. But anyway, we're following our main character Viz, and he is an orphan at the very beginning of the book, but we are told some background that he wasn't always an orphan. But he meets this guy who's very high up in the government, and he's like, I need a random ass boy to go into this academy because there are some funky things happening and I want to get to the bottom of it. So he randomly adopts Viz, and he's like, okay, go into this weird ass academy and learn everything that you need to know because I need to know what happened to my brother. Here's why this book didn't work for me, and I will actually go on a rant. If you don't want to listen to this rant and if you love this book, skip to the next chapter. Use those timestamps below to protect your peace. Viz is Mary Sue. He's good at everything. And when I realized that this boy didn't have any challenges, I was like, what is the point? There are no stakes in this book because he's just good at everything. And the other problem with the book is that Viz is supposed to be a 17-year-old boy, but he reads like he's 35. There is no way that he is a teenager. There's absolutely no way. And the other thing that worked for this book is that it was set up in this military academy. So the fact of the South is that you have this entire world out there, this whole magical Will of the Many universe out there. But we, for the readers, we get trapped into this academy where it feels so isolated and so working in like a silo. And I'm like, I want to be out there. I don't want to be in this academy. I did not feel attached to any one of these characters. In fact, all of them kind of just blended together. And the other problem with this book is that it is boy fantasy. I don't care what anybody says, but this book is boy fantasy. And my definition of boy fantasy is that there is hardly any female perspective or hardly any like women characters in the book. We're solely focusing on Viz. There are some female characters in the book, but they are there to make Viz's lives more difficult. Like, they're not there to help him out in any way, shape, or form. Also, didn't 100% get the magical stuff and how that worked. And then by the end, everybody talks about this book about, oh my god, the plot twist, the plot twist. And when the plot twist happened, I was like, I don't fucking care. I actually don't care, which is why I sold the book. And I was like, I don't want this negativity near me, so I sold it. Goodbye to the Will of the Many. And then the next book I read was The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which came as such a relief after reading The Will of the Many. That book was 700 pages long, and I'm so glad to have read this book, which was like really short and quick to read. We're following Jeannie, who inherits a coffee shop from her aunt, and then I think the guy's name is Logan, and he's kind of like a farmer. It is very insta-lovey. It is a cozy romance type book. These two kind of fall in love very quickly, but it's set up in this like town that's giving you small town vibes. I think the town is called Dream Harbor. This book came into my life at exactly the right time. Fuck the Will of the Many. Also, I was going through my medical condition at this time and the effects of that, and I just needed something light and fluffy to read. If you need something quick, easy to read to get you back into reading, this is it. It's also very spicy, so if you want to read a spicy book that's cozy, that's got some light, fun romance in it, this book. Yes. Alrighty, moving on. Then I went on to read Reckless by Elsie Silver, and this is the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series. This book is following Winter and that guy's whose name I don't remember right now. But Winter is a doctor, and in the previous book, she had a miscarriage and she divorced her awful husband. What is that guy's name? Theo. So this is the guy that we met in the first book, and he is like a bull rider competitively. Winter and Theo have a one-night stand, which then does get her pregnant. So there is baby trope in this book, and I really thought that I was not gonna like this book because I hate the baby trope, and I also don't like children in my books. But I absolutely loved Winter and Theo together, and the baby was barely there, by the way. So if you're like me and you don't like babies or kids in your book, I still think you should pick this one up. I love their relationship. There was no like third act breakup that happened. There wasn't even like a miscommunication. They just worked through some things. This is my second favorite, or maybe my like third favorite Elsie Silver book. And because I enjoyed this one so much, I decided to pick up the last book in the Chestnut Spring series. So this one is following Bo, who is in Eton, and Bailey. Sorry, I had to read the back of this to see what the names of these people were. Bo went missing in action, but they found him, and he had some severe scar burns and is dealing with like recovery. And then Bailey is a bartender in the town's local bar. Bailey comes from this very notorious family and notorious for like being bad people. So people in the town treat her like shit. And so she's trying to get out of there because she's like, I don't want to continue to live here. But she's having a hard time because she's very financially cash strapped. And then Beau's family keeps being up his ass about like, are you doing okay? You're recovering okay, blah, blah, blah. So Bailey and Beau strike up a deal with each other. They're going to get fake married in order to help Bailey not be associated with her horrible family, and also to help Beau so that he's not being hounded by his family. But then they also fall in love in this book. And I think what people don't like about this book is that Bailey is a virgin. So we are dealing with that very unfortunate part of the plot. And the other part I think people don't like about this book is that Beau was in the military, and so the whole military thing is like a thing. But I think part of the minority again, where I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it. I love this book. It is my favorite book in the Chestnut Spring series. It just defied all the odds for me. I can't even tell you why I like this book, but I just like it so much. After reading 2 romance books that I really, really enjoyed, I decided to stay on that romance train. And so I then picked up Pucking Wild by Emily Rath. Don't think that I've been saying the author's names in this quarterly wrap up. I'm so sorry. And you might be thinking to yourself, why did you pick up that book, Lexi? You absolutely hated Pucking Around. Yes, I did. But I was willing to give it another chance. And I was in a romancy mood, so I picked up Pucking Wild. And I have to say, I did like this book. What did I give it? I give it 3 stars. Like maybe it's a 4 stars or maybe 3.5. It's close to 4 stars. But I really enjoyed this. So we are following, let's look up at the back of the book. Tess Owens. What's the guy's name? Ryan. Tess is Rachel's best friend from the first book, and Ryan is another hockey player on the Jacksonville Rays. And so they met in Pucking Around. And I think they had like a minor thing in Pucking Around, but then it became like a big thing in Pucking Wild. Tess is a lawyer and she's trying to divorce her awful husband. Her and her husband work together, and he is a bit of a creep, and he like spied, or I guess stalked is might be not the right word, Tess and Ryan, and he's like, well, you're cheating on me. And she's like, you didn't mind it before when you cheated on me. And he puts her on like leave at the law firm, so she goes to hang out with Rachel in Florida, where she reunites with Ryan, and they have a little relationship. This is not reverse harem. This is not poly. So it kind of like fixed a lot of things that I didn't like about the previous book. So I don't have a problem reading poly, but I just didn't like the way that Pucking Around did it. So if you're going into the book thinking that it's going to continue with like a poly relationship with like Tess and Ryan, it's not. But it had some of the elements that I did like in Pucking Around. And I'm so glad I gave the series a second try, because now I really do want to read Pucking Sweet, which I did hear is poly, and I hope that it's done a lot better than Pucking Around. And then I went on to read Praise by Sarah Kate. This is my first Sarah Kate book. And we're following the girl. Her name is Charlie. And she breaks up with her boyfriend, Beau, at the very beginning of the book. And her and Beau shared an apartment. And she's trying to get a deposit on the check back for that apartment. And the deposit is sent to her ex-boyfriend, Beau's dad's house, Emerson. So enter Emerson. Charlie goes over to Emerson's house intending to get that money back. But what she doesn't know is that Emerson, along with his friends, own a kink club. And Emerson's kink is that he wants to be a dom. So when she gets to the house, someone tells her to go and wait into his office. And so when he goes into the office, he thinks that Charlie is the one that was sent for him to be a dom, that she's like an escort, I guess, kind of. And he tells her to get on her knees, and she does it. And like, she's kind of into it, but then Emerson quickly realizes the mistake, gives her the money back. But from there, they're kind of like, ooh, I like you. I think I like you too. And they get into like this relationship. Sarah Kate writes sex scenes very, very well. And I quite enjoyed this book. Because I liked this book and I was in a romancy mood, I continue on to read more romance books. So the next book I read is Eyes on Me, also by Sarah Kate. And this is the second book in the Salacious Players Club. I don't think that I said that Praise was in the first book in the Salacious Players Club, but it is. And Eyes on Me is following, oh my god, let me look it up, Garrett. Garrett is another owner of the kink club, but his specific kink is that he is into voyeurism. And yes, I am whispering now. Nobody can hear me say all this in my house. So he's just very into watching others' sexual acts. And he has his stepsister, Mia, and she is a cam girl. At the beginning of the book, their parents invite them to go over to, I think it's a lake house, to spend a weekend. And Garrett's like, no, I don't want to see my stepsister, because at the very beginning of the book, they do not like each other. But Garrett stumbles upon Mia's cam girl page, and he is very into it, and it ignite some feelings about his stepsister that he didn't know that he had. And he's like, actually, let me go to this lake house trip with my parents because Mia's gonna be in there. And he wants there's anything between them. This book very much is giving Pornhub stepbrother and stepsister fuck. It has every single trope that you've ever seen in a step-sibling porn video. I hate that I'm saying any of this out loud. And I gave this book 3 stars. Like, I enjoyed it. I think it was okay. But the fault of it is that it was giving porn. But I was still in the mood to read more romance, so we continued on with the Salacious Buyers Club. Salacious Players Club, I'm getting that wrong, is Give Me More, and this is a poly romance story. Drake works for the Kink Club. He's a construction man, so he helped build the club, and then we're following Hunter, who is another owner of the club, and then his wife, Isabel. Drake is kind of like a ladies' man, but the 3 of them are sent on like a trip or a research trip in order to help the club be better in servicing the people of the club. So they end up in this one club where they're teaching them bondage. Hunter is in the back, right? Talking to some other people. And then the teacher of the bondage is like, hey, Drake, Isabel, come up here. I'm going to teach you how to do some bondage. Both of them are like, okay, sure. So as Drake is tying up Isabel, he gets a little turn on. And Hunter is like watching in the back and he's like, I think I like seeing other people do sexual things to my wife. And that's how this polyamorous relationship comes about. There's a lot that goes into it. It's kind of a weirdly emotional book. I gave this one 4 stars. This was a really well done poly romance. And at this point, I've had my fill of romance books. Probably shouldn't have used the word fill in that sentence the way that I did, because from there, I moved on to reading a horror book, which is My Ex-Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I gave this one 4 stars, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think it might be a 3-star book because I don't remember what happened in this book. I just know there are 2 friends, best friends, and one of them like has something that happened to them in the forest, and that's how they get taken over by some kind of spirit. And so the other girl is like on a mission to help her best friend out because her best friend is doing a lot of odd things, but the people around her life doesn't believe her that there's something weird happening with her friend. So she makes it a mission to help her friend. What I do remember about this book is that Grady Hendrix perfectly wrote a book about what it's like to have female friends and to be in a female friendship. I don't know how he did that as a random white man. Maybe he did a case study. Maybe he interviewed some girlies. I'm always just very shocked when a man is able to write about female friendship or like a lesbian romance and it's done really, really well. Oh, I actually did own this book. I'm sorry, I didn't hold it up. And the next book I read is Disney High by Ashley Spencer. This is a nonfiction book following the rise and fall of the Disney Tween Empire in the early 2000s to like the late 2010s. So we're starting off with the Mickey Mouse Club, kind of going into Lizzie McGuire, Even Stevens, and then ending with like Camp Rock and Demi Lovato, and then sprinkled in there we got some High School Musical, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Hannah Montana. If you grew up with the Disney Channel around this time, I think that you would enjoy this book. It gives you everything that you want. It gives you like the story of how the Disney Channel came to be, while also giving you the tea behind the stars themselves. So if you are a stan for Disney around this time, I think you should pick this one up. After reading Disney High, I guess I went back onto the romance train because I read Scythe and Sparrow, which is the 3rd book in the Ruinous Love trilogy by Bryn Weaver. I do remember the guy's name in this book. It's Fionn. I don't remember the girl. I gave this one 3 stars because I felt like it depended too much on what happened in the previous 2 books in order for you to even understand what was going on in this book, because it didn't really build up the relationship between Fionn and the girl. It just kind of expected you to know what happened, and I had read Leather and Lark and Butcher and Blackbird such a long time ago that I completely forgot what Fionn and that girl had done in those 2 books. But Fionn is a doctor, and then the girl, she works for a circus, and they meet because the girl, she ends up getting injured. She hurts her leg. Typical with the Ruinous Love trilogy, the girl is a serial killer, and Fionn is kind of like, I don't want to kill people, but we know how that goes in this book. I just gave it 3 stars. It was just fine. This series really lost me at Leather and Lark, and it just kept going down from there. If you're thinking about picking up this series, only read Butcher and Blackbird. That's the only book that you need to read in the series. All right, we are down to the last 5 books. The next book is Keep Me by Sarah Kate. I don't know why in this period I wanted to read so much Sarah Kate, but this book is not in the Salacious Buyers, club. We're following this Scottish man who owns like this mansion, and he's kind of drunk. He's a rake, kind of all over the place. He's a mess. And his family wants him to give up the house. He's also a little bit agoraphobic, so he hasn't really left the house. So they hired this woman to get married to him, and if they stay married for a year, she gets like $10 million. I don't remember what he gets, but during that time or that year, they end up falling in love. In this book, I remember it being a little bit insta-lovey. I do remember it not making a whole lot of sense, which is why I only gave it 2 stars. So far for me, the only Sarah Kate books that have worked for me is whatever is in the Salacious Players Buyers Club. And the next book I read was The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. I just wanted to go back to my cozy, happy place. This book is following Hazel, and I think the guy's name is Noah, who we met in the previous book, and it is very insta-lovey. It's very spicy. It just brings you back into Dream Harbor, into this cozy, wonderful world. Honestly, if you want like a really light read, or if you want to get back into reading, this series will do it for you. The setup of this book is that Hazel is getting these secret notes in her bookstore that she's assuming leading her to like kind of like a scavenger hunt or like clues to like the end of something. And she's trying to figure out who is like leaving these clues for her. So she enlists Noah to help her. Noah doesn't live in Dream Harbor. He's kind of like, I don't know what's another word for townie. Like, he's not from there. The only thing that irked me about this book is that they kind of did a poor job communicating with each other. There was a third act miscommunication, but it wasn't that horrible. I give it 3 stars. Like, this one is just fine. I do prefer the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. And then there's another book. The third one I think is The Christmas Tree Farm, which I will not be reading right now. Seems like a book that I should be waiting for Christmas to read. And then the next book I read was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This is a super, super popular TikTok book. So I was very nervous when I picked up this book that I wasn't going to like it. And it is like 600 pages, which is ridiculously long. Obviously, I listened to it on audio. So we're following Sarah, who lives in this like desert town that is ruled by this evil queen. And she steals like a gauntlet or like a wristband thing from one of these guards of the queen one day. And she gets in trouble for that. And she's hauled over to the queen's palace, where she accidentally opens up this portal to the fairy world, and she gets stuck there, and which is where she meets the main guy, Kingfisher, who is a fairy or a fae, and he helps her come into her magical abilities of opening up portals. There's also this like war going on with the fae and the vampires. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. There's obviously it's a whole thing because of the pages length of this book. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really liked it up until like the last 100 pages. The last 100 pages confused me to no end. Someone drop a girl a DM and please explain the last 100 pages, because there was this thing that happened with this one character that you could not guess that was going to happen, and like not in a good way, where like the book give us no hints that this one thing was going to happen to this character. It was very confusing to me. But other than that, I really enjoyed this book, and I'm really excited for the second book to come out, I think later this year in November. And the next book I read is Comfort Me with Apples. This is a very short book. Is like 100 pages. They're following this woman named Sophia, and she has the perfect life. She lives in the perfect neighborhood. She has the perfect husband, but things are not quite what they seem. And that is all that I can tell you, because this is such a short book. But the last like 30 pages or so, the twist gets revealed to you slowly and slowly. And once you figure it out, you're like, gasp. I was shook. I wish I could tell you more, but I think that this is such a short read that anyone should pick it up. You probably will be as gagged as I was when the plot twist is revealed. And the last book I read this quarter is Savor It by Tara DeWitt. This is my first Tara DeWitt books. I know that she's kind of like blowing up these days with her romance book. Savor It is following this girl named Sage. She lives in like this small town, and she has a lot of like animals, and she has a farm. And then we're following Fisher, who is from New York City, but he moves in this small town in order to help his boss out, and he moves there with his niece. His sister has like previously passed away, and he's taken in his niece. Fisher has kind of fucked up in New York City, that ended up getting fired, which is why he was sent to this small town. Sage enlists Fisher's help to help her out to win this competition in the town, and slowly but surely they fall in love with each other. I am the odd girl out because I thought it was just okay. I think I'd give it like 3 stars. Nothing about this book particularly stood out to me romancy wise. Like, I felt like I wasn't doing anything different other than like your typical romance books. I'm not going to completely write off Tara DeWitt because I do want to read Funny Feelings. I think there's another book by her that maybe I'll also give a chance. Sorry for that to be so anticlimactic, but I have nothing else to say about Savor It other than it was fine. Now I have all these books behind me that I need to put away. Hopefully I can get back to uploading my regular reading vlogs, but my content will be shifting a little bit now that I've started grad school. Maybe I'll do a little bit of StudyTube along with BookTube. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please give it a like, and I will see you in another video next week. Bye!